Someone you may not know. It's, Jim Koch is the founder, brewer, and chairman of Boston Beer Company. This is probably his fifth or sixth time you've spoken at our summit.
Yeah, I'm
More
repeat mistake.
repeat mistake. So, well, thank you for being here, Jim.
Don't thank me till I'm done.
Oh, you don't have to pay me. It's
No, I just wanted my opener.
Oh, you're okay. Your opener, of course. Will you pop me a Twisted there, sir? Thank you. So, Jim, are you okay? I read in the journal that you're, for the first time ever, you're talking about succession plans, and we just want to make sure that you're okay.
Well, I've talked about succession plans for a long time, and as you know, I've developed this foolproof succession plan. It's worked every day for 40 years. It's very simple. Don't die today.
Right.
So that's my succession plan. But we do have, we're a public company, so we have some governance structures. And I had a nice long talk with a woman from the Wall Street Journal, and she asked me all these questions. And oddly enough, the thing she picked out of it was, what happened if, in the unlikely event that my plan doesn't work, I die? And I reassured her that my wife would become executive chair, and she's never really been in the limelight. She's done a lot of amazing things, started an industry herself, umbilical cord stem cell banking, which people who've had kids in the last 20 years had an option to do. That was her idea 30 years ago, started it in her apartment, built it up, took it public, it got acquired for $300 million. So she's a reasonably accomplished person. So I guess it was, and many of the wholesalers know her.
I met her last
she
night.
loves to
Delightful lady.
Yeah. So that was how that came about.
She seemed very irritated with you.
Constantly, Harry.
Yeah.
That's why you're not married.
Yeah, right. Never again.
Yeah.
No, but she said, because she's very intelligent, like you said, and she said that she'll say things, and then you say actually, and then you look at ChatGPT and counter her on your phone. So I think that's pretty funny. I wanted to talk about the health of the beer category, and we've had after COVID, we've had a tough couple of years, and we keep thinking because of easy comps that we're gonna have a better year, and yet here we are with more headwinds. And then you've got the New York Times shouting every day that we're about to die if we drink. What are your thoughts on this?
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, right. I'll drink even better for you.
Yeah, we're in an interesting time, and I think, you talked about it yesterday. It's a somewhat unsettled time. I think we thought, after COVID, everything was going to be like it was in 2019. Well, things are never like they were 4 years earlier. But there is this, I would call it malaise. It's not yet clinically treatable depression, and I hope it doesn't get there. But I've had that sense, and I guess I want to offer a counter viewpoint to that from somebody who's been doing this for, I guess I'm now in my 5th decade, making and selling beer. And one of the enduring realities for all of us is this is a really, really good industry in terms of the industry structure and the regulatory framework. This is a very, very attractive industry. Lots of smart people, want to get into this. Family offices, and that smartest guy in the world, whatever his name was.
Yeah, he invented quant trading.
Yeah.
Meritage.
Put $1 billion into it. You can see private equity wants in. It's just a really attractive industry. You've got things like franchise laws. The 3-tier system is a keystone of the attractiveness of this industry, but it benefits everybody. Consumers benefit because they have the broadest range of products in the world that's available through an independent wholesaler tier, and there's quality. I know that because whatever it was, 15 years ago, we had glass in our bottles, and because of the three-tier system, we got 24 million bottles of Sam Adams off the shelves in 8 days. They can't do that with lettuce, but
right.
we got 24 million bottles back, and there was 0 injuries from that. So consumers get safe product, retailers get their shelves merchandised, displays built. They have very smart partners who help them set their shelves. Obviously, wholesalers have, as a wholesaler, this is an amazing business. As you pointed out at breakfast, wholesalers always win. Things shift around, but wholesalers own the brand through the franchise laws, and that makes them truly partners with us in an economic sense, because about half of the value that I, as the brand owner, have created goes to the wholesalers. I mean, you can look at just the simple numbers. Take our market cap as a company, take out $1 billion worth of capital that we have in there, and the rest is the brand value. And the brand value to us, I think, is about 5 times gross profit now. That's less than it is to a wholesaler. So we are truly partners in building brands and creating value for each of our businesses together. We cannot succeed unless we both succeed. And as a brewer, I have access to the whole market through an independent tier of wholesalers. We sell in Canada, and in some of the provinces, they have the US system, and that's where craft beer started, in those provinces. And then they have, totally screwed up things like Ontario, where in order to sell my beer, I either have to sell it through the liquor board of Ontario, or through the beer store, which is owned
by AB
and Molson Coors.
Yeah.
Now that sucks.
Right.
We don't have that in the United States. So we should all be thankful that we are in this industry that provides such benefits to everybody, and they're enduring benefits. And to me, after 40 years, I've seen ups and downs.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're all in the beer business. Beer has been around for 10,000 years. It's had its ups and downs, but it will endure. And I think to build on what you said about the New York Times, and there is an alarming amount of anti-alcohol noise in the press. It's way more than I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I happen to believe that that is self-inflicted. We brought that on ourselves. Some of you will remember for many years, through the leadership of Anheuser-Busch and Molson Coors, we funded neutral research on the health effects, benefits, and risks of alcohol at Johns Hopkins, with very credible researchers. And part of the deal was, we're funding research, it's independent. If you find out that alcohol is bad, we want to know it. And if you find out that it's good, the world should know that too. And 10 years ago, in a very short-sighted move, mainly led by ABI, we pulled that funding because we couldn't control the outcomes. And as a result, for 10 years, most of the research about the health impact of alcohol has been funded by anti-alcohol groups. We lost our voice. And that's very unfortunate and short-sighted. And hopefully, we'll get through these guidelines in 2020 this year. And Congress and I guess it's Bobby Kennedy Jr. will maintain the position that alcohol is good, alcohol is bad. There's no clear, it has some good effects and some bad effects, and moderate drinking is fine. Hopefully we'll get through that, but we need to start funding that independent research so that there are two sides of the question out there in the public domain.
Yeah, you make a good point, because the anti-alcohol people are very well funded. This Movendi International, they used to be called the Knights of the Templars of the, weird, archaic, they wear robes and chants and all this stuff. It's like a cult. And, and then when the World Health Organization is giving out grants, which is how these people make money, they're first in line. And so they are well funded, and we don't really have anything, like you said. There used to, when I first got in the business, there was always something going on at Johns Hopkins to show that, like you said, either way, it could be good or bad, but usually moderate drinking is shown with the J curve to be at least not harmful to you, if not beneficial to heart health at least. So anyway, let's get back to the Boston Beer Company. And so, one of the things that Boston Beer has been really good is in innovation, either being a fast follower or an innovator in itself. And you can point to Angry Orchard, then Truly, and Twisted Tea. What is the next thing?
Well, if I knew that, I'd have one in my hand. Our approach to innovation is, I think, like most very innovative companies, which is, you try a lot of things. In 40 years, I've constantly been surprised how little we knew when we started a product. Like when we started Truly, we were the first hard seltzer. It was in February of 2016. We thought it was going to be a niche product for white blouse women after they finished their tennis game, and we were going to replace, vodka, soda, or Chardonnay on the rocks, and it'd be a little niche product. And then we found out, no, it's guys that drink it. It's universal. It's got this huge appeal. And from that little, and I never forget, we have a booze cruise with our distributors. It was down in Kinneil Bay in the Virgin Islands. And I get on the boat, and in the back of the boat, there were four of our wholesale, big guys. There was probably close to 1,300 pounds of wholesale back on that bench.
That's a lot of wholesaler.
That is a lot of wholesaler. And they were all drinking all drinking Truly.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you're not really the target market. But do me a favor, count how many you drink. Because I was going to drink Truly all day just to see what the buzz, and the hangover was like.
Yeah.
And
market research. Okay.
Yes. And I drank 8 of them, which for my body weight was a lot. But they ended up, between the 4 of them, drinking 58. So almost 15 each. And I went, maybe these are not white blouse women playing tennis.
Right.
So you just don't know when you come up with a new product who's going to drink it. Twisted Tea was when Snapple came out. We thought, all right, let's put some alcohol in this. And we thought it was going to be, yuppies, urban yuppies. Totally wrong. Turned out to be blue collar, a particular type of blue collar, not like, dumbass, shit kicker, cracker, hillbilly, whatever the term is, whichever part of the country you're in.
These are my people.
Yes, I know. Well, I'm glad you upgraded. But it was blue collar people who had some skill, who made a little more money, had a revelation, it did really well in Maine. So I decided I'm going to do my market research is going to be go up to a C store in Lewiston, Maine, and see who buys it. And I stood there all morning, and about 10 o'clock a guy comes in, and he's obviously from a construction site, got work boots on, and I think he was a sheetrocker because he had a lot of plaster dust on him. And so he comes in, he buys, it was 10 o'clock, break time, he buys a bottle of Snapple, 16 ounce, and a twisted tea. And I said, well, this is really interesting. I wonder, and before he got out of the store, he drank the Snapple. And then he opened the twisted tea and he put it in the Snapple bottle.
Oh, smart.
And went off and operated heavy machinery, I guess.
Well, it's only 5%.
Yeah.
I mean, for a guy like that, it's hardly anything. Yeah, that is funny. And teas always start in Maine. It seems like that, or Connecticut, or that in New England is where teas, alcohol teas, seem to do well. So what's next, sir? What do you think is coming up?
Well, right now we're optimistic about extending tea into vodka base. I mean, what we've kept wondering about is how do we create an even more premium product than twisted tea? We're always trying to figure out how do we trade consumers up to a higher quality, premium priced product. What's above twisted tea? And we think there is a market for premiumizing twisted tea through the use of vodka, and Surfside, all credit to them. They revealed that opportunity with their success. So we are a fast follower in that category, and I think it's not going to be like hard seltzer. Nothing will be like hard seltzer.
Again, in all of our
not
lifetimes.
in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
It's once in a lifetime opportunity. It went to 10% share in 4 years. Light beer never did that. Imports never did that. The vodka tea is not going to be like twisted tea, but it's an opportunity to premiumize the category, and we have really high skills in making great tasting tea. So we're pretty happy with Sun Cruiser, and so far we're getting our ass kicked in the Mid-Atlantic, where Surfside's done a great job, but we're by far number one. We're like 6-1 in New England, and in the rest of the country, I think we ought to be able to do very well with our wholesaler partners.
And that's a testament to your sales force, which is famously, I would say you have more feet on the street per barrel than probably almost anybody.
By a large margin.
Yeah. Now, can we do a post-mortem on the Mountain Dew deal with Pepsi? How do you, we know how it turned out, and distributors in many cases will have ended up with it. Do you feel like it went okay, or how do you view that? What would you do differently, maybe?
Oh, okay. In life, there are times when the only way to know what the outcome is going to be is to create that outcome, and hopefully you don't, create a lot of damage with that. But that's just been our experience. You just have to try things and see how they play out. And we didn't know. There were two possible outcomes. One was that this long-awaited convergence of soft drink distribution with beer or beer-like products was going to begin, or it was going to end up in our wholesalers.
Right.
And my bet was the latter, but Pepsi had, they got deep pockets, lots of money, and they control 85% of their distribution through, their own, they own the bottlers. So, but I told them, I don't see how you're going to get to scale, because they wanted to do it on separate trucks and a separate business. It's like, it's not going to work.
Not with one product.
Yeah, exactly. You have 0.5% market share, and you're going to
Yeah.
try to support full, C-store distribution. But they were willing to try it, and the second outcome is what happened. It's now in our wholesalers. I believe it will be the most successful of the crossover products.
Really?
Once we get, up and running in all of our wholesalers, and it's back to growth. So I'm optimistic about that. It's a very strong brand. The core actually Mountain Dew drinker is about 35. So and it's an interesting product. There's I watch my grandson who's 15 socialize, and he does it gaming with. He gets on a game, and he's got a buddy in Seattle, and he's got somebody in Atlanta, and he's drinking Mountain Dew.
Sure.
I'm thinking, his analog at 25, it's a great gaming beer.
Okay, a gaming beer. I like that. If you guys have questions for Jim, please pass them to the middle, and we will pick them up. So tell us about what Michael Spillane is like as the CEO. You've talked a little bit about, he's been on the board forever, so he has experience. And how has that transition gone from Dave Berwick, who doubled the business in his 6 years, did a great job, to now Michael Spillane's era? And does that era, what kind of difference does it have from Dave's era?
Oh gosh, I don't think it'll be huge because I'm still here. Michael is his own guy, a different guy. He's a beer guy. He's from a blue-collar background. His brothers are Irish firefighters in Boston. Mm-hmm. That's his background.
Really?
Dave went to Harvard and good schools. Michael went to UMass Boston, commuted and bartended. To get through there, though, way back in my former life, I worked for another guy who went to UMass Boston, a guy named Jack Welch, was one of the most successful CEOs in history. And Jack was a blue-collar guy from Somerville who went to UMass Boston. So Michael was street smart at Nike. He did gritty stuff that nobody else wanted to do. They gave him a little dying sneaker brand that he turned around called Converse and made it cool. So he's a very nitty-gritty execution, management, understands the role of retailers. Nike essentially, Michael was a candidate to be CEO of Nike. They picked another guy, hyper-educated guy from Bain and from Bain Consulting and things like that. And Michael was like, let's not go online. Let's just make sure we pay attention to the retailers. People want to buy sneakers at a retailer. They don't want to buy them online. Right. And the other guy that they put in built a digital strategy, tried to cut the retailers out, the distributors out. Look at Nike's stock price. So he has good instincts, and he understands the nature of our business, the nature of the retailer, the nature of those relationships, and the nature of
management consultants. They're the worst, right? Right?
Yeah, that's why I left.
That's why you left. Okay. No, sometimes you get even you get some people, they call it spreadsheet masturbation, where you go, look, if we did this and this and this, and you multiply it out, and it's going to be beautiful, but then you forget there's people involved and
that's a great
personalities
term.
Involved, and I'm sorry about that. We'll cut that in post. The masturbation part. What do you want to leave
It feels good while you're doing it.
So I've heard. um, so what do you want to leave as a legacy?
Well, I don't think too much about that. I guess.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. You're all invited to my funeral. I hope you come. That will be my legacy.
You'll outlive most of us, I'm sure. Okay. What lessons for the hard seltzer boom bust will you carry as you bring new innovation to market, specifically Sun Cruiser?
Gosh. Okay. There's an indicator that we ignored that we should not have ignored in the growth curve. And it wasn't just us. Everybody got it wrong. Analysts, even management consultants got it wrong. The projection was it's going to grow to 15 to 20% of the business. And it looked like it was on track to do that. But in the data, there was a warning sign, I'd seen it before, actually when I was management consultant, but what was happening was a lot of the new drinkers ended up not staying in the category. Mm-hmm. But they showed up as demand. They were trier rejectors.
Right.
And they showed up as demand on this growth curve that we all projected from. And I should have taken them out. And the one thing that we did that I think was smart was we didn't build plants. We were tempted to. We had a decision. It was a $500 million plant in Arizona, right next to the Ball can plant. Mm-hmm. There was land, and we had to make a decision on it. And I said, let's not do that. Let's expand what we have, and the rest we'll put in contract production. We signed lots of contract production. We wrote off $200 million, but it would have taken $1 billion worth of capital assets, and we never invested that. So we saved $1 billion.
That was smart.
Yeah.
And the risk would have been if the demand had kept up, then your margins would have been lower because you had these contracts.
Yeah, we can live with that.
But you can live with that.
Piss away $1 billion.
Yeah.
You really start to have some regrets about that.
Right.
I'm happy that I had $1 billion to piss away, but I'm glad I didn't.
Right. Well, yes, okay, I got this note. I do apologize about my ankles.
They're cute.
I must have mispacked my black socks.
I got a pair for you.
Okay. Would you ever acquire again?
Good question. Answer, probably not. That's in 40 years, we've done one. And it was, to me, a special opportunity. It wasn't a spreadsheet thing because the numbers did not really.
And you're talking about Dogfish.
Out, but yes, with Dogfish.
Yeah.
And I view that as a joining of forces. Mm-hmm. And Sam and Mariah were just great talents. And we did not acquire the business per se. I mean, my deal was, Sam, I don't want this if you're not coming.
Right.
I mean, if you're coming, all right. And we paid more than we thought, and he took less than he could have gotten from selling it to a foreign company.
Right.
So we had a happy middle there. I have no regrets about it. He's been a wonderful partner. He adds a ton of value to, and I think Dogfish Head is going to have a really good year. They have this unique opportunity that only comes to somebody like Sam. The Grateful Dead wanted Sam to do a beer. So they were willing to put their brand on a beer and put their logo, that skull and lightning logo, on a beer. We have a multi-year contract, and I think that's something I've never really seen before. Of, music act of that level of fame, and
it is surprising.
Everybody loves them.
Right.
Yeah, but they wanted to do something with Sam.
Right. And if you haven't seen our podcast with Sam that we did 2 weeks ago, It's on YouTube, and it's actually really good. We talk about the Grateful Dead beer. We talk about his plans for he and Mariah to get in their boat and go up and down the eastern seaboard and hitting dive bars. Because as we all know, dive bars are where brands get started. So with Hard Mountain Dew entering Sam's distribution, how big could it be in 2025?
Well, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Things take time to build. I think we've had everybody talk about that. I mean, Mike's, at Mark Anthony Brands, look at what they've done with Cayman Jack. It's now 13 years in, and it's become an overnight success. So,
right.
We tend to, I don't think about year-to-year variations. It's one of the luxuries of our structure. We're a public company, but we have what I think is the purest form of corporate democracy, which is I get to vote. And I have all the votes. So I vote yes, I vote no, and we have a great board, but there's two things they can't do that normal boards can do. They can't get rid of me, and they can't sell the company. Right. So they have to make this the best company that it can be with me there. So we have the luxury of not worrying, and I know there's a lot of analysts here, but not worrying really about quarterly earnings, even annual earnings. What I worry about is how do I make the company more valuable in 5 years? Right. How do I double the value of the company in 5 years? That I worry a lot about. And so asking me in 2025, it's like, who cares? Yeah. I believe in 5 years, Hard Mountain Dew will be the most successful crossover brand from non-alcs.
Really? Okay. And kind of along those lines, how do you reinvigorate the beer portfolio, meaning lager and the Dogfish brands?
Again, it's a really good question, and that's, I think, for us, we've added a lot of value to this category through innovation, but we all have to remember, the fourth category beyond beer, it's still only whatever it is, 15% or something like that of the volume. We got to take care of the other 85%. Right. And it might not be 85% of our portfolio, but craft beer is who we are. As I remind people, we're the Boston Beer Company, and beer is our middle name. We're not the Boston Beer and Beverage Company. We are the Boston Beer Company, and that's a statement for us to make to ourselves of beer and craft beer is really the foundation of our success. I genuinely believe that one of the reasons we've been successful when you go outside of beer is we've brought with us the craft beer mentality of focusing on quality of the ingredients, things like, it's twisted tea, it has its own demographic, but the tea in there we buy from a 200-year-old tea merchant in London, and it comes from the best place in the world for cold tea. Mm-hmm. The rest of the world drinks hot tea, and that comes from growing areas in like China, Darjeeling, Sri Lanka, Kenya, but for cold tea, the best tea comes from the last Atlantic rainforest with tea estates in the area between Brazil and Paraguay and Argentina. So respect for the ingredients, respect for the makers. I mean, we have makers who are like brewers that create products like this, and they're as obsessed with flavor and quality as brewers are. They're on the same team, actually. Right. So bringing those craft values has been the foundation of our success in the fourth category products.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I didn't realize that cold tea was different. Our last question. It is our last question, but it's a long one, so bear with me. 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Whoop, whoop. Last I checked, a guy named Samuel Adams signed this critical document. Will you celebrate this fact and reintroduce to the USA? Or I don't know what that means, but will you celebrate this fact? How about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were involved with the commission, and it has some funny name like the semi-susquincentennial.
Yeah, I
You
saw
know what
that.
I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Subsisquincentennial or something. Yeah.
Yeah, some weird. It's the half 500 year
Right. We need to come up with a better name for that.
They got to come exactly. But we are involved with them, and maybe we'll throw some twisted tea in the harbor.
Okay. And then hemp THC beverages, no 3-tier, no franchise, no trade practices, health claims against alcohol. How is this in any way good for the beer category?
There's two questions there, right? Health claims and D9?
Yeah, I think the questioner is saying he's pointing out all the negative parts of THC beverages.
Well, that's exactly right. We are not. We have a D9. We actually have a cannabis company in Canada, knowing that at some point it will become federally legal. So when that happens, we want to be able to provide our wholesaler network with a quality product that they can trust and believe in, that will be supported and grown. But we haven't brought it to the U.S. And D9, it's attractive, but it's a mess. And
it reminds me of kind of when I'm not that old, but right when a repeal happened, all the states kind of made different laws about 3.2 beer and this beer and that beer, and we're kind of in that state, I think, with D9. It just hadn't been figured out yet. So for a public company,
for the same reasons that I really celebrate how attractive our industry is. D9 doesn't have those.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for being up here. You can